Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to an all-new one-off special event at the Sim Racing Collective, and it is, of course, the Mountain Rally event. Goodness me, an intriguing event, very different from what we're used to. It's coming hot off the heels of an absolutely brilliantly and hotly contested MX-5 championship. We're an all-new season of racing, only a couple of weeks away. We need to bridge the gap. We need to cool things down a little bit and get everybody set for it's going to be an all-new season racing ahead. But of course, we need to give an opportunity for drivers to let out a little bit of stress, also let out a little bit of anger, and along the way, enjoy themselves. And what better way to do it than making a way to Australia and for arguably one of the most difficult circuits in the world. It may power a little bit in comparison to the Nürburgring Nordschleife, but the Mount Panorama Racing Circuit in Bathurst, New South Wales, Australia is a circuit that comes exceptionally close to being one of the toughest out there. At its core is an incredible 3.86 miles of tarmac with 23 corners, but most importantly, the fact there is a trip up to, over and down Mount Wooloo or Mount Panorama, depending on your preference of name, and indeed is a circuit where the walls loom large, the overtakes come on the straight, and through it all, it's all about risk versus reward. But what better way to complicate things and make things even more intriguing than rather than taking your typical road racing car, and indeed each and every year GT3s will roar the way around this circuit over the 12 hours of Bathurst, and Australian supercars will roar around it in the Bathurst 1000, and instead we've opted to go for something a bit unconventional. That is, of course, the Volkswagen Beetle Rallycross car. So therefore, it really is going to be the event where it's all about the battle of the Beetles at Bathurst, and indeed, you couldn't make this up, and it's not going to be some synonymous chapter of Game of Thrones, known as the Battle of the... Hold up a second, I'm not allowed to use that word on the broadcast, so I'm not going to say that any further, but you know what battle I'm talking about. We're going to be seeing our drivers roar the way around here in 560 horsepower rallycross machines that can go from 0 to 60 in 2 seconds, and therefore it's all going to be about trying to keep a cool head and get everything absolutely right. But where are my manners? Allow me to welcome you all to this live broadcast from Circuit Side. You're tuning, of course, to the one and only available platform for all things the Sim Racing Collective, and that is, of course, on YouTube at youtube.com, and search for TSRC or the Sim Racing Collective, and you can be tuning in there, and you can be joining many of your peers as we get set for an incredible evening of racing today. Don't be shy, feel free to say hi, let us know how you're doing and how you're getting on this fine Monday evening. And if you've had a difficult Monday so far, well, don't be upset in the fact we're here to turn that frown upside down and give you plenty of smiles. And I'm not sure what's going to outlast the competition here, ladies and gentlemen. It will be our drivers, the walls of Bathurst, or Turty, my voice. Because you may be able to detect, I'm not feeling 100% at the moment. I do have some sort of respiratory infection. Could be COVID-19. It could be anything, to be honest. And therefore, I may lose my breath from the sheer amount of laughter that's going to go on as I'll try to keep the straightest face possible for the purposes of preserving my health and my voice as we go roaring through that. But who am I exactly? My name is Paul Walsh, also known as TX1 or Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. Now I bring you all your racing action as it unfolds over the course of this evening. Speaking of our action for this evening, well, as we can see there on screen, in the UK time zone, we get underway with qualifying in approximately what will be a minute or two's time. That'll be at 8:05 this evening. We go roaring around this circuit and see who can put it on pole in an open qualifying session, which isn't going to be absolute pandemonium at all, I can assure you. Yes, it actually is, with all our drivers trying to squeeze in around here. And then we've got 2 races lined up, 2 sprints, the first of which is 20 minutes, due to get underway at 8:15 this evening. And we have our second sprint due to get underway at 20 minutes after the fact. The first one getting underway, so pretty much back-to-back racing. And it's another 20-minute race at 8:25. So therefore, it's going to be absolutely relentless racing in rallycross cars. You couldn't ask for more here when it comes to a one-off event where it's really about cooling tempers down and getting everybody set for a new season ahead. But just to tell you a little bit about our circuit, the Mount Panorama Circuit, we're located near the city of Bathurst, in which it typically takes its colloquial name of the Bathurst Circuit rather than Mount Panorama. Well, located in the state of New South Wales and Australia, it is one of the circuits that withstood the test of time. If there were the 7 wonders of the world of motorsport, it would definitely be one of the 7 locations that definitely is a wonder when it comes to a racing circuit. 23 corners, plenty of elevation change, and a huge thank you to iRacing.com, not just for their brilliant simulator on which we're hosting this event, but also the track maps that come with it. The only problem with this track map, of course, is it doesn't demonstrate the absolute severity of the elevation change from the lowest point of the circuit, which is at turn number 1, all the way through to the highest point of the circuit at Skyline at turn number 11. And as our drivers roar the way up the straight, Mountain Straight being the run from turn 1 to 2, and meanwhile the run all all the way down Conrod from turn 18 to turn number 21 into the chase chicane being the other straight, but it really is the straights that connect everything together, and with that connection, that's where the overtakings can be made, because it is incredibly narrow as soon as you get onto that mountain, beginning with the cutting at turn number 3 and into that Forest Elbow at turn number 18. But rest assured, you expect some drivers to go for moves over the mountain. They'll be very brave to do so, but whoever's taking their bravery pills may just be able to get away from it. In terms of our rules then, well, this is a one-off event, so it's not as serious, let's say, rule-wise, but you still have to have some rules for going racing. Setup-wise, while drivers are required to drive the Volkswagen Beetle Rallycross car, and they're using a fixed setup, which is available, and we're using the same setup that was used for the recent Ringmeister series. Yes, iRacing has taken these Rallycross cars and sent them all the way around the Nürburgring Nordschleife, so therefore this car definitely is a little bit of a much-loved machine, and indeed parodied several times with regards to the Ringmeister series, and therefore we're going to see our drivers drive it in parody today. As for car damage, it has been entirely switched off, so we might see some bumpers come flying off, but it won't impact the performance of the cars here. Indeed, we want everybody to have the opportunity to have some fun. Qualifying is an open qualifying format, and we talked about that only moments ago. And as for our races, well, the race 1 grid shall be set based on the results of qualifying, that's a given, whereas the race 2 grid shall be set as a full reverse grid based on the results of race number 1. So whoever takes the victory in race number 1, they start at the very back of the grid for race number 2, and vice versa. The lowest place finish for race number 1, they start on pole for race 2. And there are no instant point limits either, and therefore it does mean around here our drivers could just settle in, enjoy the racing, and not be afraid that if they do accidentally make contact with another driver or with a wall, that they're suddenly going to pick up a drive-through penalty for instant points. But that's enough rules, regulation in between. We're all here for the racing and a good amount of fun today, and we make our way back to circuit side then in good time as well, because qualifying is just getting underway. As all drivers roar the way around, we've got plenty of familiar faces and also some fresh faces here compared to the MX-5 Championship, which recently concluded, and a fresh face is none other than Stefan Hütter, as we do see the German driver making his way out of Forest Elbow in the Cracked Racing machine, and Cracked Racing bringing a number of drivers to the table here today in their very, very catchy liveries, I must say. Absolutely fluorescent there. You wouldn't mistake that even if we turned all the lights off and made it night time at first. I can tell you one thing right now, to stand out like a sore thumb. That's not a bad thing, particularly when it comes to team advertisement and sponsors. Now, if you see them making their way down the Conrad Straight and you can hear an absolutely horrendous sound, the sound potentially of chainsaws essentially being juggled or trying to chop down a tree unsuccessfully, that is because the Volkswagen Beetle machines, they don't have the longest of top gears, and they're actually bouncing off the rev limiter constantly as soon as they make their way halfway down the Conrad Straight. So therefore, you might need to adjust your ears very slightly when it comes to listening to the engines of these cars, because they will be hitting the limiter every so often. They're not made to go that fast down the straights. They're normally made to only take a short stretch and then suddenly drift their way into the next corner. Albeit we see a big drift there from Hütter as he makes his way across that timeline to go onto his first flying lap and exiting out of Hell Corner there. Well, now he's got to try and deliver the business, but heading up the hill, well, good number of drivers do. Meanwhile, one coming downhill, it's none other there than Francesco Petalin in the Big Pig Racing machine as he makes his way onto the brakes. And we're very happy to have the 992 driver here once again, representing a different team today, albeit the Italian driver, I think, just enjoying himself out there. And who can blame him? The fact he's here to have a good time. As we've got a few other drivers there making the one to laps, including Craig Twardock here, the British driver, and one of the big stories of the MX-5 Championship. This is going to feel very different as he does run the Hoonigan machine in honour of Ken Block, may he rest in peace forevermore. And of course, his daughter taking over from Ken with regards to delivering all the impressive stunt driving. And Will Twardock right now really channeling his inner hero, it would seem, as he makes his way all the way out towards turn number 2. So what can we expect in terms of qualifying, and how important will qualifying be? Well, if this was a more serious event, qualifying would be extremely important, as Jack Southfield there in the medical herb machine, indeed, as he rolls his way through there. Oh my good lord. And Southfield gets it completely wrong and, well, manages to demolish the car, but of course it restores itself immediately. But still, he tows his way back to the pit lane and decides to go again. I think he's a bit shaken and stirred by that one. And in fact, he might be taking some more medicinal herbs from the car there as he now cools himself down a bit. And well, we will refer to them as medicinal herbs, ladies and gentlemen, because it's not 420 day at the moment. And if you know, you know. But I'm going to try and keep this as PG-13 as possible. But as he makes his way up the hill there and, well, gets himself back at speed, Andrew Pike, meanwhile, the team at TSRC driver here bolts his way down Conrad, and, well, the very orange livery there. And I do believe we've got a driver who's making his way around in what is a Herbie livery machine. And if you're not in the know with regards to Herbie being a fictionalised Volkswagen Beetle that has a bit of a mind of its own and has been featured in a number of movies which are all about it racing against much more powerful cars, but Herbie always finds a way to win somehow. But I cannot see the Herbie machine at the moment. It's out there somewhere, I can promise you, as we look to Max Foster as he dances his way over the apex there at turn number 2, and now heading up the hill towards the cutting here, and I can imagine under race conditions that we are going to be seeing the cutting of a few bumpers and scrapes into that corner, particularly if anybody decides to go 2 or 3 wide. But as Foster right now yet to get a valid lap on the board, and I think that might be the theme as well, that not too many drivers will get a valid lap. Well, one who's definitely trying to find a lap at the moment is none other than Martin Blankensteiner, the Danishman here heading up the hill, and as he does so, drifting his way towards the cutting there, trying to explore the limits. And these cars very unstable in the rear end. By default, rallycross cars, they will want to rotate a lot more, and he gets very close to the wall there. As he heads out to turn number 5 into 6, taps the wall briefly. That actually helps him rotate the car around the corner, so there might be a bit of a technique to that in qualifying, but in the race that might be a bit riskier. But as he heads up towards McPhillamy Park here right now, Blankensteiner really dicey and dancing his way from corner to corner. This is a lovely driver for the Cracked Racing driver. I can tell you one thing. Well, if he has done any practice right now, he's definitely making that practice invaluable. If he hasn't done practice, I do wonder whether he does a lot of rallycross on the iRacing platform in his spare time or even in real life, because right now he seems to be absolutely dialed in here as our number 4 driver. And well, I suspect this could be an opportunity for him to try and go for pole position. Speaking of pole position right now, well, there's the IKEA furniture machine from Team TSRC. It's Kieran Sharp, the brains behind the operation of this event, and well, whatever possessed this man to come up with this idea, well, I can tell you, I had the opportunity to sit down with him in the build-up to this. He didn't reveal exactly how he came up with this idea, but he said, we thought we'd do something very different at 4.5, and we need to do this more often here at TSRC in between our seasons. And right now, Kieran, I can tell you one thing, when you watch this back later, you've definitely already made a man laugh, and I shouldn't be laughing because of the fact it hurts every time I laugh because of the chest pain I'm feeling at the moment. But you know what, ladies and gentlemen, I'm absolutely dosed up to the nines on paracetamol already, so therefore we're going to try and forgo the pain. I've got plenty of water as well, and also some tissues out there in case I sneeze. I'll alternatively cough my lungs up, and well, as he makes his way through there, let's put the medicine aside here and see whether he can cure my concerns with some good laps. And yes, he can, but Blankensteiner, the driver who we thought was incredibly fast, has set the pole time at a 2-minute 10.576. He's looking incredibly quick out there right now. And Sharp, meanwhile, 1.5 tenths back. Twardock is a further 7 tenths off here. So these two are Blankensteiner and Sharp. They could be right at the top end of the field. But we also looked at some other drivers out there, including Alan McCain, the SimTech driver, making his way down the hill. And as he does so, right now McCain, I think, still looking for a little bit more out there. And as he's tucked in behind Twardock, trying to pick up a bit of distant toe as well, trying to gain this one a little bit as we're going towards the end of the qualifying session. And as we do, well, we need to jump on board with the police. Hold up a second, that's Jamie Nuttall. That's not quite the police there, but he's here to protect and serve his car. And right now, can he serve us? We're an absolute monster of a qualifying lap. We jump aboard to find out as he makes his way into the final corner and what will likely be one of his final qualifying laps here as he comes on out and onwards he goes then towards his final flying lap. As he makes his way onwards towards turn number 1 then, looking over to his right hand side for his brake marker, braking just before the 50-metre board, going down to second gear and then up to third at the apex, setting the rear down. 560 brake horsepower for the 4-cylinder engine here. There is a huge amount of horsepower for these cars, and they go from 0 to 60 in 2 seconds. So understandably, sometimes you want to be in a higher gear. But as he makes his way up towards turn number 2, we're hitting the rev limiter there and braking at 130 metres a quarter apex down to 4th gear. Will he drop to 3rd? The answer is no. He wants to avoid wheel spin. And as he comes out, now heading in towards the cutting at turns 3 and 4. Here it's going to be about dancing in. Nice early turn in there. Get the rear to come on around and then onto the brakes. Down all the way to second gear. Keep it nice and tight to the wall. And now throttle in as he heads through turn number 5. Over the bounce and then in towards turn 6 he goes, into 4th gear here. Well, this is the corner that's caught out so many, but not Nuttall this time. As he straight lines through up to 5th and now through turns 8, 9 and 10. The triple left that concludes at Philby Park gets absolutely spot on there at turn number 9 and now into turn number 10. Slides the car in, doesn't go to 6th there, instead holds 5th gear and now heading in towards Skyline. The highest point of the circuit, he looks over to the Skyline and now it's downhill here all the way as he drops his way into the dipper, holds 3rd. Will he go to 2nd gear on apex? No, he won't. He holds 3rd to make sure he doesn't get too much wheel spin. Up to 4th gear, then very quickly to 5th and now in towards Forest Elbow, braking very early there, approximately 350 metres a quarter apex and down through the quarter, 2nd gear and back on the 3rd, up to 4th immediately, then it's going to be 5th. Very quickly going up the gears here is Jamie Nuttall and now heading in towards what will be the chase chicane. Well, right now Nuttall's done well, but you'll hear the engine bounce and listen to the limiter, ladies and gentlemen. If you can't see what I mean with regards to chainsaws there, perhaps I'm hearing things that you're not. But as he makes his way onto the brakes, braking at 100 metres from the apex. Well, lovely run there from Nuttall third, then full out now as he heads in towards the final corner, heading down towards Murray's Bend. And, well, as he gets ready, he's gone to the brakes then one more time. What's it going to be for Nuttall as he scoops his way through a left-hander? We head towards the timeline. It's been an impressive lap, but will it be enough to put him on pole? The answer is going to be yes, it is. It's a whole 1.1 seconds faster than anybody else. Jamie Nuttall there, goodness me. Well, if he wasn't the police, he'd be getting a speeding ticket. That is absolutely monstrous for a 209.397. And Max Foster, meanwhile, now it's going to need to go some here as qualifying concludes, and that's how they're all going to line up, ladies and gentlemen. No overtime in qualifying, so we immediately make our way to the grid then for the first of our 2 races today. And without further ado, here we go, and this is how they all line up for race number 1 here at the Mount Panorama Circuit in the Sim Racing Collective Mountain Rally event for October 2025, brought to you on iRacing, and it is Jamie Nuttall who lines up a pole position there with an absolutely incredible lap, a pole lap of 209.397 and 1.1 seconds behind him. Joining him on the front row of the grid, it will be Max Foster. On row number 2, we have Martin Blankensteiner and Kieran Sharp, with then Felix Smoggy and Craig Twardock line up on row number 3. Starting 7th, it's Andrew Pike there for Team TSRC, ahead of the Dutchman of Bart Raven, and then completing your top 10, it'll be Clive Bourne and Alan McCain. But one thing to note there is the fact he's looking very close towards our top 2 rows, then all the laps are a bit spread out from there, but plenty of drivers didn't get a bad lap on the board. One of whom was Francesco Petterlin, who starts 11th, ahead of Tom Davidson. We also saw no lap achieved for Nick Clibbins, nor for Stephen Hooter, and then we also did see what was William Chan have a difficult qualifying session, starting all the way down in 15th, ahead of Lenny Hansen, with James Radford 17th ahead of Jack Southfield, and that is how they'll all line up, ladies and gentlemen. So we will have 18 drivers on this grid. It's absolutely brilliant to see so many have joined, and well, they are all almost in position here, and we're almost ready to go racing for the first of our 2 races today, as Nuttall sits there very eagerly wanting to go green flag racing. And we will see what he's going to be able to do as the clock gradually ticks upwards. But here we go then, ladies and gentlemen. Lights are going on. The revs will rise. And for the first time today here at Mount Panorama Raceway, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights. And it's lights out, away we go as they all bolt off the start-finish line immediately, up to 60 miles an hour as quickly as that. Foster gets the better start here as he looks around the outside. Can he get it done nice and early? The answer is no, he can't. Nuttall gets his elbow out immediately and says to him, no, Max, you can't go around the outside there. And, well, as they make the way up the hill, here we go. It's going to be a drag race out all the way towards turn number 2. And, well, for how long they go told it's go. Hansen's already picked up a black flag for a jump start, so that is going to be a stop-and-go penalty in the pit lane. He can't dodge that, unfortunately. And Nuttall right now trying to defend the outside versus Foster, hoping that outside line is going to benefit him, as we can see all the field now coming through the right-hander. A bit elbows out there between Clemens and what is Southfield, but they survive it just about. And Jamie Nuttall, well, he leads them all into the cutting and does well enough there in order to hold them off. Now it's over the mountain, and here it's going to get drama, as there's a bit of drama there, and I believe that's Nick Clemens who's been turned around. He'll be able to get himself back in order very quickly, albeit a lot of bumps on the car, but no, can do it, can his race in terms of moving forward at this point. He's going to try and recover as quickly as he can. As Jamie Nuttall leads the field in towards McPhilly Park, well, Martin Blankensteiner, he's got a bit of pressure from Kieran Sharp behind, and these two, they're exactly as they started right now, and indeed our top 4 definitely, I think at this point in the race, just settling down into a river and hoping to drop the rest of the field, which Felix Smoggy would be the first of the rest of the field there, proverbially speaking, albeit I could imagine qualifying was one part of the story, and now in this race we are seeing a very different complexion. But can Jamie Nuttall just run away with this, given his qualifying pace? Maybe he can, as meanwhile that's not going to be run away there, because that's Petterlin riding away with the back of McCain. Out of the left-hander they go, and down, car round in the rear of the picture. That is a spun-around car for, I believe, William Chandler, the Cracks Racing driver there, who in the end ricochets off of the barrier and decides to use that to help him turn the car around. That's a bit of a tactical manoeuvre there. I don't think you'll get away with that normally, but Chandler really decided to test the limits of the physics engine. Heading down through the right-hander there of, well, it's turn number 20 into 21 and 22 into the chase. All right now, and Davidson enjoyed a good little ding-dong scrap with Clive Bourne, who he's got a place off. Bourne having a difficult start, losing multiple places since the beginning of this race. But as they come towards the end of lap number 1, well, we see chop and change in the mid-pack, but not at the front of the field, as Jamie Nuttall makes his way on to lap number 2, head of Max Foster, followed by then Martin Blankensteiner. That's your top 3. Kieran Sharp is 4th, Felix Smoggy is 5th. Then we have Craig Twardock ahead of Bart Raven, followed by Andrew Pike, and it's Alan McCain under pressure from Petterlin here, as Petterlin dives up the inside, so McCain will drop to 10th place. He almost drops to 11th, in fact he does. as Tom Davidson squeezes up the inside there, and Alan McCain doing his best Tokyo drift, but unfortunately, in the end, it does not impress everybody else around him, who simply says, right, I'll take the place off of you. Blankensteiner up the inside here of none other Max Foster, so that's second place changing hands, and Kieran Sharp is getting ready to get involved here, as right now, all the IKEA furniture machine, it's looking to assemble itself into a third place configuration. But will he be able to do so as we jump aboard here with Sharp? And the answer is yes, no, baby. He's going to be side by side, heading in towards what will be turn number 5, but he has to back off there. There's no space, as it's the battle of the Beatles up the hill now. And well, as they do, will he be a Ringo Starr, or will he be the John Lennon here of the group? And I get the feeling right now he's trying to be the John Lennon. He's trying to be the big front man in this battle, but it's not quite working out as they head out to turn number 9 and in towards turn 10. And Sharp right now drifting left, right and centre, having to muscle the steering board around here. These cars so unstable through these corners, and that's what makes it such an intriguing challenge. Oh, that's a knock to the barrier. That's going to put him flying, and our leaders go round. They all go into the wall together. Sharp just dodges all the madness, and well, in fact, that's not a leader. That's the leader of the pack. Jamie Nuttall's run off with this, but that was a big hit to the wall there from one of the drivers, and it was Max Foster who got caught up, and somehow Sharp avoided it all, and well, it's completely split the field. But hold on, there's even more drama. That's coming down the hill, and Blankensteiner in contact there, and that's Andrew Pike getting caught up. Also there, we did see what was Alan McCain getting caught up as he gets boxed in behind. It's all unfolded over the mountain on this second tour of the circuit, and we'll be able to get a replay of that when we can, as Pike right now, oh, that's getting elbows out there between Pike and McCain, and well, it normally gets elbows out between the two of them when they're racing touring cars in the NXTCC, but right now the elbows are out here in the Beatles, and they can get away with this a lot more. Well, you can see how these cars bounce around off each other, so therefore they can't afford to knock each other around too much, otherwise it's going to feel as though it's ping pong balls or weigh at the best part of a ton when they do. Up onto two wheels there, we caught him as Francesco Petalin, and well, he decides to try and cock the wheels where he can, but it doesn't quite work out this time, although he's absolutely trying to push harder as Petalin as he heads in towards another lap. Well, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we need to take a look back at some of the big moments of the first couple of laps, starting what happened to Nick Clemens on the opening lap. Now, this was Nick Clemens, who we briefly lost there for the scenic view. Not quite sure what happened there, but we found our way to him. And we're side by side there, got caught up alongside, and that was the car Jack Southfield he made contact with. And in the end, well, Southfield able to get away with it. Clemens, not quite so. William Chandler, meanwhile, this happened to him on the down slope of the mountain, and the crack chasing driver for the United Kingdom under braking there. Oh, got a bit too close to the cracked racing machine in front, and Southfield finding his way into contact again, almost going up on his roof there, Southfield, and bouncing over William Chandler. So, well, Southfield's definitely had an interest in lap number 1. We then had this for James Radford on lap number 2. This was making his way up towards turn number 2. He'd already had a difficult first lap. What exactly went wrong here? So under braking, chucked the car in, and in the end it went completely round on him, and even Flex still can't fix that one, unfortunately. He'll have to get himself back together as quickly as he can. We had this for Stefan Hütter, and this was heading in towards the cutting. So at the time he was fighting towards the back end of the top 10. Ooh, an absolutely nasty side. Oh my good lord! And Jack Southfield can't stop the hits from coming on there. Indeed, it feels like he's creating an album at the moment, as in the end the two drivers getting caught up, and it's a traffic jam as going around the outside of them. Well, that was, I believe, Nick Clemens find his way round, and also there William Chandler, so they all found their way through in the end, but that was a nightmare moment. We then had this over the mountain on that same lap. This was Martin Blankensteiner making his way on down, and as he did, well, the Danish driver here got it all out of proportion, bounced off the curb, and then after this, just ricocheted off the wall there, and in the end it all went wrong for every driver coming into the scene of the incident, and I can't stop laughing, ladies and gentlemen. I do apologise, but my good lord, Max Foster in the end causing the mother of all traffic jams as a result of getting caught up. Can we see that from Foster's perspective? I think we can, and here we go. So this was Max Foster at the time. He sees it goes wrong for Blankensteiner. At this point, he's got nowhere to go other than into the scene of the incident. Tries to get back together, and then hits the wall, and then just gets stuck on the wall here, and causes the mother of all traffic jams at the Dipper at Bathurst. And indeed, right now, that is worse than a traffic jam on the M25 in the United Kingdom at peak time. But goodness, yes, I see their Tesco car park. One of you says in the chat, that's absolutely brilliant, and that explains the big shunt there. But we must come back to your live racing, ladies and gents, because as much as we could get a replay reel of that exact moment time and time again, well, we've got more to come. And right now, for Bart Raven, he's tucked in behind Martin Blankenstein as they fight over fourth place. And we do say hello to you there, Mr. Numbers, and I hope you're doing well, good sir. And also to Roger Pike, I hope you're having a good time, and all the family are well. But as all the drivers continuing around right now, we're not even halfway through this race yet, and we've already had some absolutely hilarious moments, no doubt about it. and I don't think we're quite done with them as the Taco Bell machine goes around right now, and well, the number 42 cutting loose. That's Tom Davidson getting himself back up to speed. And well, Davidson normally spends his time more pointed in a straight line than going sideways. It's very rare to see a car sideways for Davidson, but even he can make a car go 2 sideways every so often. And as he gets himself back together right now, well, sliding his way on around, as we do see Clive Bourne having a very slow turn number 9, in fact, and Andrew Pike make his way past. I think Davidson's going to very quickly find himself back there once again, fighting with them, unless he makes a mistake. But the number 42 driver here bounces his way down the hill. We ride aboard the front bumper, and well, as he makes way to the walls here, well, this is not for the faint-hearted. Indeed, if you are of a nervous disposition, particularly when the walls are closed around you right now, I believe there is a medical condition name for that. Well, definitely this is not going to be the most favourable camera angle, but it just goes to show you how narrow it is over the mountain, and then suddenly how the circuit opens up, but not that much. And therefore, really, Bathurst is one of those circuits which proverbially separates what is the amateurs from the professionals. In fact, if you keep it out the walls lap after lap, and if you can master Bathurst, then you really are at the pinnacle of your discipline in motorsport. We're heading on down right now as Davidson's car bounces off the limiter, and I'm amazed the engine's not overheating as a result of that. Well, right now the British driver here cut it up to behind Olive Bourne, or Clive Bourne I should say, and Andrew Pike. And we're coming down towards turn number 23. No change in the mode at least, but they are getting closer and closer as they make their way onto another lap. Back to the front of the field, well, it does seem as though right now Jamie Nuttall is enjoying himself, and well, he absolutely is leading the way here. And the thing about Nuttall is the fact that he doesn't really make any mistakes. That's the one interesting thing about this British driver, is that he just simply, once he's got his bit between his teeth, mistakes are not in his dictionary or his lexicon. And Kieran Sharp right now is trying to play the chase, and well, Nuttall's going to have a very interesting second race, because of course he wins this one, he'll be starting from the very back of the grid for race number 2, and I think carving his way through, he pulled off some absolute miracle starts in the MX5 Championship. It may be a bit harder here, given the fact that over the mountain, particularly if somebody causes a traffic jam, well, how's he going to find his way through it? Because there is the old saying, of course, we can't go over it, we can't go under it, we have to go through it. But I think trying to put one Volkswagen Beetle between a car park of about 10 over the Dipper, that may not be realistic. But meanwhile, realistically speaking, it was going to come to tears at some point for some drivers, and Tom Davidson there driving backwards before going forwards, and that was in an altercation, I believe, with Clive Bourne, who's still trying to get the car turned around, when then they both do. But what exactly? Oh my good lord, it's all going wrong even more, and that is going to be Nick Clements' hold up. Was that car on its roof sliding back past us as they all get caught out? Jack Southfield there making his way along. Who on earth went up onto 2 wheels for that period of time? Was that Tom Davidson who ended up going up onto 2 wheels to survive that? We're going to need a replay of that as they drift their way through turn number 10. My good lord, it's absolute chaos here, ladies and gentlemen, and we're at the halfway point as they toss their way down the hill. And I think at this point, Jack Southwell's just decided, you know what, I might as well get down the mountain somehow. I don't know how I'm going to get down there, but he has picked up a black flag for the slow down the hit to the wall. We've got a car round there, and that's Tom Davidson. He's found his way sideways, decides to put the car right on the apex, and says to Nick Clements, look, if you're coming through, you're going to have to push your way past me here. So right now, Tom Davidson realising that if he can't win this one on track, he might as well have some fun and make himself an absolute roadblock of a car. Meanwhile, coming back to some more serious racing, perhaps, Big Pig Racing's pedaling, looking around the outside here of board in towards turn 20. As they head onto the brakes, both sideways before they go onto the brakes. And they're taking a bit of grass there as Clive Bourne, but to be fair, he's doing what this Volkswagen Beetle's meant to do, which is rallycross, and Petterlin decides to take some slight track limits. They both, in the end, run a bit wide there, but Petterlin picks up a slowdown for his infringement of the track limit. Meanwhile, Clive Bourne gets away with it, so Bourne will be quite grateful at the moment as he continues to pursue, and we jump aboard. Oh, goodness me. That was very close on corner exit there to ricochet off the barrier. Well, Bourne right now getting faster and faster as Petterlin decides to brake in the middle of the road and says to Clive, I'm going to take my slow down, be prepared for it. And well, I don't think there was any surprise. I think Clive realising in the end, you know what, if he's going to do it, he's going to do it in the cheekiest way possible. And now the battle continues. They head up the hill and Bourne looks to the inside, but Petterlin says there's no way through for you, so he's going to look around the outside instead. But Clive Bourne still insisting on that inside line, tried to get into Petterlin's head, but Petterlin in the end calls him out and says, I'll go to the inside, but to the barrier does go Bourne instead, and he bounces off the wall. Car rolls back, he'll get it turned around, but for Clive Bourne, it's been a couple of laps that definitely could have gone a lot better as he tries to get his car back pointed in the right direction, and quickly does. But with that, we need to take a look back at some of the madness of lap number 5, and here we go. Now, this firstly was Tom Davidson end up in contact with Clive Bourne, head up the hill. They released what was Andrew Pike in the process. So Bourne hit the wall, and Davidson then collected with him, and that's how they ended up in arrears, both drivers. And well, as quickly as that, the cars were repaired. Of course, there's no damage on these cars. They do automatically repair themselves. But then we had this madness occur. So, from Jack Southfield's perspective, he was drifting there, battling as you do. Comes into the scene of the madness, and in the end drifts his way through turn number 6, hits the wall, goes around, and then suddenly what follows him is some absolute madness. Now, I've got to wonder what exactly happened to Tom Davidson's car, as that he was pinched by a car as well. I believe that might have been the car there of Felix Smoggy, and in fact Tom Davidson suddenly appeared in front. But what exactly happened to Davidson in amongst all of that, I think, is the question we want an answer to. And well, he tried to get himself back together. And let's get the onboarding with Davidson. So he got speed. There went Southfield very sideways into the barrier. And Davidson tried to go on around. He went round one. And then, oh my good lord, up onto the roof almost. In fact, onto the side. And then bounced around and down. And I'm going to give that, ladies and gentlemen, like Len Goodman would in Strictly Come Dancing, a 10. Because that was absolutely brilliant how he collected it back together. And somehow did not end up rolling on his roof. But with that, let's go back to your live racing, because we've still got a bit more to go and plenty more excitement to come as Bourne versus Clemens. It's Nick Clemens right now who makes his way past the man who he ended up in a bit of a scuffle with earlier on in this race. And we saw him as part of that only in the replay just a moment ago. But down in towards the chase they come, and well, right now I think it's game face on for a brief moment. Tom Davidson the same here as he tries to pass Southfield, and right now it's definitely going to have quite the smell coming from the herbal meat machine as they decide to go for the jump here instead. And does he land it? Davidson does, just about, but it's into the barrier. Southfield meanwhile absolutely nails the landing. I don't know how on earth he managed to get that to land, but goodness me, Jack Southfield in the end, yes, he picks up a slowdown penalty, but the flip side of the coin, he also manages to stick the land in, and well, that is worth some bonus points there. If we were collecting points right now, he would be winning. But meanwhile, Jamie Nuttall is absolutely winning and roaring away at the very front of the field, albeit not without incident. And in fact, here's a quick replay, because Nuttall did slightly get it wrong only moments ago, coming from McPhillamy Park. So from McPhillamy in towards Skyline, and as he bounced over the hill, well, I think this curve's going to catch him out here. It does, to the barrier, and Nuttall then thankfully only being turned 90 degrees and very quickly getting his machine back together and not needing to dial the number on the side of his car. And well, for Jamie Nuttall, even the very best make mistakes. That's what we've definitely seen here thus far as we come back to live racing. But as he heads on down there and bounces off the limiter with 5 minutes plus the final lap left on the clock, well, we do have black flags for both Southfield and Davidson for their antics in jumping over what is the chase tyre barrier, which we are expecting there to be a big jump occurring, if not at the end of race 1, then definitely at the end of race number 2. But as we then look a little bit further up the order, well, it's Bart Raven and teammate Felix Smoggy as they head down towards the chase. Will they decide to go for the jump this time? And the answer is going to be no. They're going to go racing instead. And Raven holding on right now as he goes from left into right here. And we're thinking to himself, well, what else can we do at this point? And I think, well, the answer is just to consider delivering your lines, because we can see that these two right now, as they fight over what is 5th place, they do have a bit of a gap to Kieran Sharp in front of 2.3 seconds, so they're not really close enough. And then Andrew Pike's a bit further up the road, but then again, a small mistake, and it could suddenly blow this battle for the final spot on the podium completely wide open. And well, they drift away in, but Raven's going to go very deep here, carries too much speed into the corner. And that's going to enable his German teammate to look up the inside, and the Dutchman right now, we're thinking, can he very quickly get himself back up the inside in towards turn number 2? But I think right now that's not going to work out. It's too far unless Raven decides to absolutely send it and channel his inner Daniel Ricciardo. But Ricciardo, I should say, not Ricciardo, goodness me. As they roar the way through and up the hill right now, Raven definitely not feeling as though he's got the Australian diving technique lined up. And instead he's going to have to wait his turn instead and see if he can find this a little bit later on. Heading out of the corner, well, from there we look back to Max Foster here, and well, the number 12 driver, who I do see what is McFly88 there saying, who is M Foster? This is Martin Foster from MX5, and well, it does seem as though Martin Foster, of course, one of the MX5 drivers, and well, it runs in the Foster family, does Sim Racing Motorsport, indeed Motorsport by the sounds of things, as Max Foster right now doing a very good job here of continuing his way around in 8th place. And, well, we also say hello there to Gav Gardner, the 805 driver there. And, well, hope you're doing well, good sir. And talking about the fact that, well, 2-wheeling all the way. as our drivers carry on here a little bit deeper into the day. But meanwhile, at the front, we've had a change of leader. We've got Martin Blankenstein now taking the lead this race. How on earth has that changed is going to be the question that we'll want the answer to. And the answer is here. Well, we're going to find out as, well, I said Gav Gardner only, Mike Scott. I meant Mav Gardner. My apologies, Mav. Indeed, my brain is not functioning as it normally would today, it would seem. I think it's Beatorn's the brain right now, to be honest. Well, Alan McCain and Lenny Hansen. They head up the hill and in towards turn number 2. And, well, who's going to change here? We do see the Herbie machine there on the inside. That is going to be Hansen, who is making his way around in Herbie. We said there was a Herbie car here, and it is here. And Lenny Hansen right now did a good job in defending the position for Alan McCain. They're going racing in towards the cutting. And for Leonard Hansen, he does hold on there in number 53, there or thereabouts. But with that, we need to talk a little bit about what's happened to our race leader of none other than Jamie Nuttall and how he's lost the lead this race. And here we go then, ladies and gentlemen, to explain. And this is the replay. So this was Nuttall making his way out of turn 2 in towards 3. I mean, there's a bit of drama. There's Blankenstein in the rear of the picture. So Nuttall made his way into the cutting, hit the wall and turning. And as a result, the car went completely 180 degrees round. And then here came Martin Blankenstein to take the place. And now the lead has fallen into the hands of a man who's not as quick, but he's definitely consistent and staying out of danger. So therefore, everything that Jamie Nuttall has thrown at this will now be put to the test once again as we come back to your live pictures again. And now Jamie Nuttall's leading the race. Well, as quickly as that, I think Blankenstein has been involved in a bit of a shunt, and here's the replay to explain that. And it happened whilst we're looking at the replay of what happened to Nuttall, and at exactly the same corner in this replay, Martin Blankenstein got it rolled. The car weaving one way, then the other, and in the end hitting the barrier and ended up pitched into the barrier and then to turn it around as quickly as possible. And that's how Nuttall came on through in the end. He managed to sneak his way through. Well, it was all changed for a brief moment, and then it's back to the status quo. But with a minute left on the clock, Nuttall may squeeze in one more lap after this one. We'll have to wait and see where he's able to do so, because he doesn't have too long left in the day. It is roughly a minute from Forest Elbow all the way to the finish line, so we may make it, he may not. We will wait with bated breath whether we'll be crowning him a winner of race number 1 or whether we're going to have to wait another lap to do so. Kieran Sharp versus Andrew Pike, well, the two teammates here, and we can see Andrew Pike, they're taking the unconventional defensive line of 2 wheels on the circuit, 2 wheels on the grass. He's exploring the rallycross limits here and then doing the same again. Well, you can't blame the man. He's deciding to use all the track plus plenty more. We call that value-added tarmac or VAT, and right now Andrew Pike using it to his advantage. But through he comes, and well, Kieran Sharp with him, as meanwhile our leader goes on to another lap. So with 5 seconds left on the clock, he will squeeze in a 10th lap of the circuit this time around, and in towards turn number 1 he goes. But Nuttall right now just needs to stay out of danger. Pike and Sharp is the close battle for third, with Blankenstein in front of them. And in fact, Martin Blankenstein has had a big moment at the final corner. He's just recovered, so suddenly the fight for second absolutely erupts, but Blankenstein goes deep and loses second place. He drops all the way to 4th, and now he's got a black flag as well. As meanwhile, Andrew Pike continuing to take the grass here. He doesn't want Kieran Sharp getting anywhere close to him, and right now absolutely weaving one way then the other. It's absolutely brilliant to see his defensive driving style here. You wouldn't normally get away with this, but in a rallycross car you definitely will. And well, right now Kieran Sharp is getting closer and closer with every apex and straight run. As we ride aboard, looking back from the rear of the 57 here and coming in towards the cutting this time. All Pike's there. The IKEA machine takes a look up the inside. Doesn't quite work. And right now, will it all go flat fold in assembly, or will it come up all things TSRC for Pike as he makes his way through 5, 6 and in towards 7. And well, over the mountain surely is not going to be a way through unless Sharp absolutely sends it. Alternatively, Pike makes an absolute mammoth mistake. It seems as though neither's going to happen at the moment as they head through McPhillamy Park. And Pike using all the road, plus a bit more grass there, keeping it together for now. Blankenstein 2.4 seconds back, but has a black flag. And now down into the dipper they go. Pike goes a bit deep. Sharp looks all over the back of him. Doesn't quite find a way in and has to instead just sit there and wait. And now coming on down in towards Forest Elbow. Will Sharp cut the inside? No, he won't. He hits the wall. Loses the rear of the car. And Andrew Pike says, see you later. And Kieran Sharp into the barrier. Stuck there right now as the whole field comes on past him. And well, at this point, as Sharp tries to reverse out the wall, he does so. But here comes Bart Raven on down. Goes around the outside. Also there, Max Foster, who gets it rolled. Oh, no. Max Foster rolls his way down the hill. My good Lord. But he manages to stick the landing and gets himself back together. Jamie Nuttall, meanwhile, I think he's decided to jumped the fence. That was the chase, and in the end has gone into the barrier, but still he gets himself back on track and in quick time as well. As he now heads along, we've got some cars going in quick in the rear of the picture. Blankenstein has left the barrier, but with the checker flag waving, it is going to be Jamie Nuttall who takes the first win of the day, and well behind it will be Andrew Pike, who fights his way all the way back to second place. We'll then have Felix Smoggy, who brings on home third, with Blankenstein is still trying to get the car pointed towards the finish there. That's the car that doesn't want to win. And then we'll have Francesco Pettelin take fourth place ahead of Blankensteiner at the finish line. Black flag for multiple drivers here. It may not be over yet until we see the post-race results. Then we'll have Bart Raven take sixth place ahead of what will be Max Foster shortly, as somehow that car's still standing. Well, of course it's standing because we have no damage and quick repairs on, but still, goodness me, I think Max Foster found a way to roll down the hill. In fact, I think he'd be tied for the record of the most barrel rolls done by a car in a stunt movie, which, if you ever want a quick statistic for Trivial Pursuit, it was in Casino Royale with the Aston Martin. They rolled 12 times. Craig Twardock took 9th place in the end ahead of Nick Clibbins, and then we did see William Chandler take 11th place. Best of the rest here for the Cracked Racing team ahead of Clive Bourne, who in the end will come on home to 18th for Willie. Oh, goodness me. Stefan Hutter looking in the end to try and jump the fence. It doesn't quite work out. He goes very sideways. So Bourne will bring on home 12th. And then we will see the man who tried to put on a bit of a show right at the end there. He'll come home in 13th, will Stefan Hutter. And then we will have Alan McCain and Lenny Hansen complete your lead lap finishers in due course. Here comes McCain. He decides to do it the normal way this time. He doesn't decide to go for any theatrics. Completely understandable. I think here right now the Simtech driver just keeping it out of danger. And, well, smart to do so, no doubt about it. And then we will have Leonard Hansen soon to come on through and complete his race as well. Where is Hansen? Here he is. Oh, that's a jump, but straight into the barrier there. And, well, the number 8, as quickly as Herbie does, repairs itself and gets going again. And, well, indeed, living up to the Herbie name there and the Herbie fashion and all the tropes with it. And Hansen now just has to survive one more corner, and then he will see the checker flag of this one. But goodness me, ladies and gentlemen, what an absolutely brilliant race. I did no points on the line, no bragging rights on the line, just plenty of fun and smiles here. And our driver's definitely embodying that. And indeed, right now, that's race number 1 complete. But the good news is, we've got even more of it to come, because race number 2 is only around the corner. And, well, as they all call it on down, I believe we do have a brief warm-up period of 3 minutes before we go racing again. So that gives us a good amount of time to give you a recap of who exactly finished where after race number 1. And something tells me it's not quite clear-cut with the sheer volume of black flags, but we'll give a go at it anyway. So after 20 minutes of racing in race number 1, we saw, with black flags introduced as well right at the end for several drivers, Jamie Nuttall may have taken the win on the tarmac, but he didn't take the win in the race timings. It was Andrew Pike in as promoted to victory for Team TSRC, ahead of Felix Smoggy, who took home 2nd place. And then round off the podium, it was Francesco Pettelin, who finds his way back onto the podium. Brilliant effort from the Italian driver. And the Dutchman Bart Raven took 4th place, a little bit further behind. It was 7 seconds to Max Foster, who somehow finished in 5th, despite sending that car more on its roof than on 4 wheels at certain points, with Craig Twardock there in 6th place, just behind. 4 seconds further off was Jamie Nuttall, with the black flag there, adding on to his race time the best part of 50 seconds. He'll be a bit annoyed at that one, but then again, he'll also realise that he was leading for the majority of it, and therefore put in an absolutely incredible effort. Clive Bourne took 8th place ahead of Martin Blankensteiner, and then we did see completing your top 10 Nick Clibbins for iRacing Esports. Best of the rest of the 11th was Kieran Sharp, who ended up enjoying plenty of scraps and spent a lot of time sideways towards the end of the race, with Alan McCain in 12th. And it was William Chandler, Stephen Hutter and Lenny Hansen who rounded off your top 15. A lap down, it was James Radford, ahead of 3 laps down for both Jack Salford and Tom Davidson. And that, ladies and gentlemen, I believe is how they all finished. But of course, we've got another race to come because we've got 2 races on the cards. If that was race number 1, that finishing order will now be inverted, and that's how they'll all line up for our second and final race of the day here at the Mount Panorama Circuit. An absolutely bonkers first race, no doubt about it. And, well, one can imagine that the next one is going to be even more craziness, as we do see Hutter there make his way over the fence, lands it absolutely brilliantly, and that's the line you want there. And Stefan Hutter giving us a fantastic demonstration of how to leap the tyre barrier at the chase, albeit, of course, will end up getting a yellow flag for making that jump. But to be fair, you get plenty of style points for doing so, and there's always going to be a big grin on your face when you're able to pull it off with that much of aplomb. But with only 40 seconds left on the clock, I think there Nick Clemens decided to try and see if he he can reverse his way all the way around the lap. And, well, in the end, as he makes his way down into Forest Elbow, it's a long lap in reverse, and somehow that reverse gear is still staying alive, at least for now. Definitely an interesting way of driving around the circuit, you could say, but he's going to get away with it just about there. And in fact, he won't make it quite to what will be at the finish line before the end of time, but he'll come close, and credit where it's due to Nick Clemens. They're demonstrating that he's just as strong in reverse gear as he is in first gear. As he heads on down, well, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we look to the scenic view because it is time for us to head to the grid once again for another 20 minutes of hilarious racing action in the Battle of the Beatles at Bathurst. It's part 2. It is the sequel. And whereas most movie sequels, of course, are not as good as the original, we're hoping it's going to be even better than the original. But will it be? Let's find out. So without further ado, ladies and gents, we make our way to the grid once again, and this is how they line up for our second and final race of the day. It is going to be on reverse grid pole position, Tom Davidson ahead of Jack Salford. The two of them went absolutely hammer and tongs midway through race number 1. Will we see it again in this one? I certainly will expect so, albeit hopefully they'll be able to keep it on 4 wheels and not 2. James Radford starts in third ahead of Lenny Hansen, with row number 3 going to Stephen Hutter and William Chandler. On row 4 we have Alan McCain and Kieran Sharp, followed up by Nick Clemens and Martin Blankensteiner, and they complete your top 10. 11th place is Clive Bourne ahead of Jamie Nuttall, and then on row number 7 we have Craig Twardock and Max Foster, with Max Foster looking to try and repeat his Casino Royale enter the race once more, ahead of Bart Raven and Francesco Petalin. And then we do have completing your order, it'll be Felix Smoggy, and Andrew Pike, your race 1 winner, has the luxury of starting all the way at the back, and then he's got to find his way through. And, well, for Jamie Nuttall, the fact that he may have taken the victory on the road, but instead starts in 12th place, I think he'll be raising an eyebrow at that one, because that might be a bit of a welcome surprise to him. Or it may be an unwelcome one, because perhaps he fancies his chances of being able to dice his way through the entire order. But either way he looks at it right now, that's where he'll start. And for Tom Davidson, where if he can get a good start in the Taco Bell machine, he may just be able to bolt away. But we will wait and see right now whether he'll be as fast as the fast food that is offered by the Taco Bell chain. And if not, it could be a dash into the pits very quickly. And, well, we will find out soon enough whether he's able to pull off a good start. If not, Jack Southfield there in the Snoop Dogg livery machine. Well, indeed, right now, it will be the case that he smokes something every day, but today is not 420 day, but he'll feel as though he'll be able to hit 420 on the speedo if he gets it absolutely right. But also keep your eyes out there for James Radford's car just behind in 3rd place, and also the Herbie machine of Lenny Hansen. And I think the Herbie machine may need some flex tape by the end of it, if not some flex seal, to keep it all together. But the grid is set, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to go race it once again, and here come the lights. So it's 1, it's 2, it's 3, it's 4, it's 5 red lights. And it's lights out, and away we go here for the second and final time today at Bathurst, as Davison gets a good start and immediately goes to the outside, breaks the toe in towards turn number 1, and Lenny Hansen finds himself under pressure from Hutter and McCain. McCain tries to go around the outside. They're a bit snaky as he makes up the hill, but gets it back together in good time. We have had a pit lane start for Max Foster. He's decided to stay out of danger and begin the race from much further back, so therefore he'll eventually join the running order, but he will be some degree of time away. But as they all head in towards turn number 2, once again, the top 3 all together, but they don't fight. Meanwhile, the fight for 4th, Hansen backing up McCain. McCain fighting around the outside now of Sharp as the IKEA machine tries to squeeze its way through. And what the front of the field, Davidson and Southfield are going to go too wide into the cutting. And in the end, Southfield backs off and goes to the switchback there. Davidson goes a bit too deep, gets hit on the rear, but Southfield's not able to find a way through. And now, meanwhile, Hansen's hit the wall. Oh, goodness me, that's going to get a bit rolled there for Hansen. He comes back in onto the, oh no, it rolls over again, and it all goes wrong. And right now, Andrew Pike getting collected. Oh no, it's all gone so wrong. He's into the trees almost there as Andrew Pike. You got Bog there. Oh my good lord, Clive Bourne as well comes straight to the scene of the incident. And I don't think Clive Bourne got the memo that you sometimes need to stop using the throttle pedal and instead use the brakes. He ends up on his side. And there's a bit of help from William Chandler. How about that? Helps him right the car. And as they all get it back together, my good lord, what a chaotic opening run of the race. But right now, there's no chaos here right at the front. It's Southfield and Davidson all together here as they make their way down Conrod, and absolutely hauling of the pair as we jump aboard with the 2nd place machine. And we know it's hauling because it's bouncing off the limiter there, and right now it can't go any quicker. As he heads onto the brakes, he's going to go in his Davidson. Goodness me, he's going to send it from so far back. And Salford in the end just goes, you know what, I can just take the grass in this car. It's made to do that. So therefore he defends it using 2 wheels on the grass. And who can blame him as they come down towards turn number 23. Further back, we can see there Alan McCain. He's still under pressure. Blankensteiner and Kieran Sharp as they head through the left-hander, and as they do, well, Kieran Sharp going absolutely sideways once again, and well, right now really trying to breathe down the neck of the cars in front of him, but I can imagine that right now in doing so, well, that's making him drive absolutely on the limit. But reaches limit there is Alan McCain, who drifts sideways out of turn number 1. That's going to open up an opportunity for Blankensteiner to go around the outside of him by the time they get to turn number 2. And Kieran Sharp here plays the game of working with McCain and gives him a little bit of a push on the back end. So a bit of bump drafting here. Sharp wants to gain the place of Blankensteiner. They'll go 3 wide on the braking initially, but it will be McCain who's able to squeeze ahead. McCain goes very sideways. Blankensteiner tucks up the inside, and Sharp moves into third. Blankensteiner comes through as well, so McCain loses out for a brief moment, and it looks like the Danishman will just get ahead of McCain, as now McCain has to settle back in, but Blankensteiner goes very deep, but in the end carries all the speed through the corner. My good lord, that's impressive. But coming from them, well, it's too wide here, and right now that's into the barrier, and that's Francesco Pettelin hitting the wall, comes back across, oh no, and Bart Raven gets collected there, and well, very quickly they get the gaffer tape out and fix the cars up, and Pettelin tries to get himself going again, and in the end Max Foster has to weave one way or the other, and he does so correctly this time, and they all get themselves back up to speed. But speaking of getting things back up to speed, we need to take a look back at some moments from the very start of the race. Well, we start off, of course, with what happens to Clive Baum and several drivers. So this was Bourne making its way up the hill. In fact, will the blimp camera tell us a bit more? It doesn't, unfortunately, because it's too far away. But this was heading on up. That was the car rolling onto its roof. Clive Bourne get caught up in the scene that instant. We get a close-up there to confirm it was the Bourne machine. Lenny Hansen being collected. We also did see there what was Nick Clibbins rolling around for good measure, and William Chandler. And Clive Bourne in just decided, with all the chaos up the road, you know, I might as well just try and accelerate through it. And in the end ended up on 2 wheels there on his side. And well, William Chandler being an absolute sport and giving a helping hand there when they finally picked their way past each other in order to get his rival back on his 4 wheels. Well, how about that? That's some absolutely brilliant sportsmanship there, and indeed that sportsmanship of the year, I think, at TSRC. We had this at the end of lap 1. Meanwhile, this was Andrew Pike fighting hard, battling side by side with the number 7 of Nick Clibbins, and in the end they both made haste to the wall, and almost we had a repeat of what happened on the mountain there, but in the end Andrew Pike just finding himself going around and giving us a 360-degree twirl. We had this for Francesco Pettelin on lap number 2. This was him fighting at the time with none other than Bart Raven, and well, the 2 drivers made the way out of what was turn number 5, but in the end it was Pettelin who got it wrong, and then Raven came into the scene of the instant, and the driver he was battling with was Felix Smoggy, who in the end escaped that battle in the nick of time, and that explains what happened to them. And back to your live racing we come, ladies and gentlemen. But as we do, well, still more to unfold, surely. And at the very front right now, it's all game faces on here between Davidson and Southfield. Because as we see there, Jack Southfield cutting his way up the inside. Lovely move from Southfield to get himself into position. And now, well, as they head almost, Jack Southfield here, I think, at this point in time, mentally feeling as though it is game on between them as they roar the round around. And Jack Southfield takes the lead of this race. Shroom1 says in the YouTube chat, Tom, do a kickflip on the next jump. And I believe that's in reference to Tom Davidson there. And indeed, if you are a Tony Hawk's Pro Skater fan, everyone will know what the good old kickflip is there. And it is worth initially, when you do it as part of a combo, I believe 240 points. However, every time you do it after that, it does lose the points it makes by the best part of, I think, 60 each time. But as Southfield and Davidson roar the wound downwards right now, well, I think Jack Southfield feeling as though he's a bit more of the Bam Margera of the group. Meanwhile, I think Davidson fancying his chances here as a bit more of a Tony Hawk. Well, 2 very different styles of driving and different liveries of the cars, but both of them absolutely chucking themselves at this one, no doubt about it. A bit further back down the road, Alan McCain fighting side by side with Jamie Nuttall, as Nuttall's had a bit of a slow run there. I think there's a bit more story to that than meets the eye. I think Nuttall actually burning a slowdown penalty, so he's trying to get rid of it, and Felix Smoggy will tuck past both of them because McCain's got a slowdown as well, and they both have to clear them before they get converted into black flags, which they won't have cleared until they come into the pit lanes. That's why they've lost out, and our cracked racing driver here in the number 9 has moved into 5th place for now. But coming on through and down towards turn number 23. Well, here comes Nuttall looking for an opportunity, but can he find it? The answer is no. But I think he recognises the fact we've still got just over half the race to go, and it will be a quick opportunity when it arises. And it is there, coming out of Murray's Bend. Jamie Nuttall there up the inside of a sideways Felix Smoggy and takes the place, and now will try not to have to look back. As they head up the hill, well, we had a bit of drama further down the order, a bit of excitement, I think is the better way to describe it, to be honest. And we have got some excitement here for Foster versus Clibbins versus Pike. And they roar the way across that timeline and in towards turn number 1. But Pike's a bit further back, and Nick Clibbins right now all over the back of the man in front of him. In fact, so close there, he could have read his licence plate multiple times over. We ride aboard with the number 10. As he builds up the speed up the hill right now for Nick Clibbins, he is absolutely, I think, enjoyed himself out there. And I wonder how many of the drivers right now probably think to themselves, can we just make a whole championship season out of this in this configuration where every circuit essentially, it's more about seeing who's going to survive to the end of the race, turn the damage off as well, of course, and indeed just simply make it no holds barred. And I wonder how many drivers would love that, to be fair. Indeed, it would give me back to the annals potentially of the Destruction Derby days in the PlayStation 1, which is where I started my racing all those many years ago. The best part, I do believe now, 27 years ago was when I got my first Destruction Derby game. But meanwhile, Nick Clibbins right now, a bit of a mating with the wall there, coming through turn number 4, so that enables Foster to break away a little bit, with Andrew Pike still half a second behind. Through these drivers come, and no change. But meanwhile, we did have a bit of surprise and drama earlier on, and this is what happened on lap number 3 to James Radford. And well, James Stone Radford made his way on through in the Flex Seal machine. And as he came on through into the barrier there, and the car getting caught up now. What happened after this? Because, of course, if one Beetle goes around, ooh, goodness me, that was almost very wrong there for both Clibbins and Pike. They both drifted the way and past. And I think shortly we are going to see something go wrong potentially for Bart Raven in this configuration. Well, Raven had just got it wrong separately, in fact. So there was Raven. The camera cut across and found both drivers there into different moments of the wall. And this was for Bart Raven. He was chased after the time Craig Dardock and, well, got it rolled through turn number 6 into 7 here. Took too much speed into 6, got caught in the wall at 7, and the car just getting pinned on around. And then to add into all the madness, this was Max Foster, who separately got it wrong. And this was the Briton making his way through Skyline towards the dipper, hits the curbing. That doesn't unsettle the car, but what it does is carrying way too much speed. Rear left tyre goes onto the grass, and that's not exactly how you do the dipper. But to be fair, he does get through it in the end. He just decides to 360 style it out. And well, they do say when you get things wrong, style it out, and he does exactly that, does Max Foster. So credit where it's due. That was definitely one way of making it look as though he just wanted to do the dipper very differently compared to everybody else, and who can blame him? But right now, as we look back to your live racing, well, Blankensteiner chased after Sharp and Davidson for lead this race, with Jack Southwood a bit further back. Southwood has been demoted down. He's now got Jamie Nuttall for close company. And, well, as it's a run to the wall there for Southfield, it's going to be Nuttall looking up the inside immediately. But right now, Southwood's not giving up there as they make their way too wide through. Nuttall's almost to the wall there, tapping the brakes all the way through, too wide racing. And you can tell right now, these drivers, they're enjoying themselves out there. But when it gets close, they want to take this seriously. They don't want to knock each other off the road. And therefore, this is absolutely superb racing. This is the biggest contradiction in motorsport I've ever had, ladies and gentlemen, to commentate on, which is you've got drivers who are driving and racing this seriously, but when it goes wrong, it goes so comedically wrong to the point you can't stop laughing. And right now, Tom Davidson, well, it's no laughing matter for him as he tries to keep Kieran Sharp and Martin Blankensteiner behind, but Blankensteiner hits the wall into the dipper and we're into Forest Elbow, I should say. They all come on in, but they all go around the outside. Blankensteiner can't go anywhere other than hold the brakes, which he does so brilliantly, and indeed he does now get himself back up to speed just in time for teammate Stefan Hutter to catch up to the back of him and go, what happened, Martin? You were miles ahead of me and now you're right in front of me. And well, that'll be a conversation the two of them will be having later. As we do look to Clive Bourne, meanwhile, as he makes his way onwards, and I believe we may have had a car go over the wall somewhere because Craig Twardock has been struggling. He's finally caught himself back up, but what exactly happened to the number 6 driver? And here's a quick replay. So this was Twardock roaring his way through turn 4 and 5, went towards 6, grazed the barrier, and then decided to ride the barrier in towards 7, and it didn't go quite right, so went spinning around. Oh, no, that's a nasty shunt there from Clive Bourne, and Francesco Petlin being caught up, and Twardock in the end find himself back to that barrier once again, and well, in the end, I think making very close contact with that barrier several times. He might want to see if the barrier is okay after that one, because I can imagine the car's in a much better condition than the barrier right now. But from them, we come back to your live racing. And Andrew Pike back to plenty of fighting here with 9 minutes left on the clock. Pike defending one way then the other. This is for 9th place with Nick Clemens still right behind him. And both these drivers right now absolutely pushing each other to the limit as we ride aboard with the Nick Clemens machine. Andrew Pike, they're deciding to defend using the grass once again. And, well, goodness me. Right now, you would think that man's had a few drinks before he's gone racing. Not so as Nick Clemens decides, you know what, if you're going to open up the circuit, I'm going to try and look for a wide course in towards turn number 2. And then he suddenly realises that the walls actually come back at him in towards turn number 2. And that's to protect the local residences of Australia. Because, of course, this circuit is a public road by day when it's not a race day. And there are all businesses and houses literally off the circuit. So, therefore, those walls are very tight to the racing circuit to protect the local properties, and they do in the end taper in on a number of those straights in order to make sure if there is a high-speed incident, none of the carnage can make its way to a local property. So Nick Clemens discovering that just in the nick of time as he makes his way through turn number 9 in towards 10 and literally mounting the curb there and abusing it through turn number 9. And, well, the Rallycross car definitely taking it on the suspension as they now make the way over Skyline. But both drivers here absolutely driving on the limit of what the car can do and what they can do as well. It's absolutely brilliant to see. We're heading down now in towards the next lap. Remembering as well, of course, that they are on dirt tyres. They are not on slick tyres, these cars. And therefore, these tyres, they will very quickly begin to overheat because of the amount of tarmac contact they make. They don't pick up as much heat when they go onto actual dirt surfaces. So they are on tyres that are boiling hot as there. Andrew Pike literally chops off turn number 19 and shows you how to do it without picking up a slowdown. Nick Clemens, meanwhile, I think he's trying to cool the tyres down potentially by going on the grass. Well, right now, is it working or not? I don't know, but does it look absolutely incredible? Yes, it does, as he heads in towards the chase chicane. Well, he's keeping an eye on his rival, but he's not able to make an impression as Andrew Pike has a slowdown for that cut at turn number 19. So he's not been able to get away with it. And the Team TSRC driver here having to bleed all the time as he heads in towards Murray's Bend. He does so eventually as Nick Clemens completely outbrakes himself there. I think so happy to be going around the outside of Andrew Pike. Then in the end, forgetting there's a braking zone and bring himself back on for iRacing Esports just in the nick of time. Well, as he heads onwards, well, Tom Davidson, meanwhile, he's still leading this race, and very comfortably so, by the best part now of 2.5 seconds over Jamie Nuttall versus Kieran Sharp. As these two close together, and Jamie Nuttall back on the rise here. But he won't be if he gets it wrong into the barrier like that. And Jack Salford says, do you mind if I join you? And literally sticks his backside out there, rubs it up against none other than Nuttall. And, well, I can imagine that sentence could be said better, but that corner could have been taken better as well from Salford as he goes around twice at the barrier, 720 degrees, gets it back together there. And, well, goodness me, Jack Salford getting away with that one. Absolutely brilliant to do so. And Alan McCain squeezes on through, as does Felix Smorgy. Well, Martin Blankenstein will be looking at this right now and thinking it's all gone wrong when it was so close. As he grinds into the wall there at turn number 9, and his teammate Hutter goes round the outside of it there as he rejoins. Well, Martin Blankenstein, for all the pace he's brought to the table today, he has had a couple of moments here right now. That pace has not clicked together, but he's enjoyed himself, no doubt about it, because he's picking himself up as quickly as that and getting right back into the thick of it. But looking from then to Nuttall, who right now is closed on Sharp and will do so even more because Kieran Sharp does have a slowdown penalty. And he's going to serve soon. And with 5 minutes left on the clock right now, it's all madness here every step of the way. And when is Sharp going to serve it as they bounce off the limiter? Well, we're not quite sure at the moment because it does seem as though Sharp holding that inside line. And when in the end, Kieran Sharp decides to go jump it. Does he make the jump? Yes, he does. Does he land it? Not quite. He gets it wrong and it's across the road. It's all in pieces. And then it picks itself back up very quickly. Oh no! Who's Jack Sal? Oh my God. Oh my goodness! And well, with that, ladies and gentlemen, Jack Southfield has been completely vaporised. We will never see him again. My good lord, that was the biggest shot I've ever seen. Oh, goodness me. Well, Jack Southfield has ended up in the pit lane as a result of his very interesting contact with Kieran Sharp, where the car has been broken up into so many pieces. They've had to glue him back together in the pit. And, well, he'll try and get back together as soon as humanly possible. Alan McCain now has somehow managed to get into the lead of this race from getting stuck in the wall. I'm not quite sure how he's managed to do that. I think that's a timing glitch. Yes, it is a timing glitch. He brings himself back together now. So Alan McCain is trying to cause voodoo on what is our timing tower there. And well, in the end, he doesn't fire away. Unbricks himself there, does our timing tower. Because for one moment, Alan McCain was leading just by simply mating himself into the barrier at the start for this straight. But on a more grounded level. He's now battling with Francesco Petalin as they head up the hill. And, well, this is going to keep us guessing all the way to the end as McCain goes defensive here. Around the outside, Petalin on the inside of him, and I think Petalin's going to get this nicely done. He'll just simply take the place, and now they'll make the way over the mountain. But as they roll the way through, and well, brilliant Yu-Gi-Oh quote there from Numbers, saying that Jack Southfield managed to find the Shadow Realm, and indeed, I'm going to coin that one. That's absolutely fantastic there. He's absolutely been banished from the card pool, or the car pool, we should say, as Jack Southfield. I don't think we're going to see him again today. He's in the pit lane right now, and indeed, he is being attended to by the nurses. Well, meanwhile, Tom Davidson and Jamie Nuttall now fight for winners' rights here all the way to the very end. And with 3 minutes left, they'll have this lap plus one more. But who wants it more is the question, and the answer will be at that checker flag. But as they come down, well, right now, both drivers here, of course, and they do have the option to try and jump the tyre barrier if they will. They will pick up a slowdown for it, but if they land it, it could gain them plenty of time. If they don't land it, it could end up going just the way as it did for Southfield, to the Shadow Realm and bust. But Nuttall right now getting serious, as is Davidson. Blankensteiner is closing very quickly, so we could have a three-way fight for the win right at the end here in this one. And, well, Blankensteiner has picked up what is a yellow flag, so it's a slowdown. I wouldn't be surprised if he decided to leap the barrier, and that's how he's picked up so much time, but he will have to serve that slowdown, and it most likely will become a black flag. But as Davidson and Nuttall make the way up the hill, I do see Roger Pike there saying, good job, this is non-contact. And indeed, right now, any conception of this being a non-contact event has been completely put to the test here. And they've done brilliantly, they have. The only thing they have made contact with is the barrier every step of the way. And well, Tom Davidson right now defending hard here as Nuttall looks around the outside. It's game time then, ladies and gentlemen, and up the hill they come. In towards the cutting, we look back from the rear of the number 42 being chased by the police here is Tom Davidson, and well, I don't know if he's got a criminal record in real life, but he has got a record for going so quickly at Bathurst right now, and Jamie Nuttall is in the hands of that police car looking to try and make an arrest here or take the victory off of him. But as it's going to be a game of cops and robbers right now, can Davidson rob Nuttall the win? Well, we will see as he glides across the wall there at turn number 9. It's the barrier getting to 10. Nuttall getting close. Does he look for the move? He does try to. He's going to go in on the inside here through that left-hander, but to no avail. And now coming down the hill over Skyline in towards the Dipper. Nuttall absolutely hustling as much as possible as we jump aboard with the number 11, but he gets a bit wrong there, hits the barrier, and that might be it. Nuttall's into the wall, and in the end it's all gone wrong. There's Blankensteiner as well. It could be just like in the Blues Brothers in a way there, where the cars pole into each other, but Tom Davidson now just needs to get it home, with Felix Smorgy catching up as well. He chases down second place now on the back of Nuttall, but Tom Davidson has got the break, but can he get away entirely? That is going to be the question mark here. Does he decide to style it out and go for the jump right here? Go on, Tom, don't take it the normal way. Go over the fence, we dare you if you're listening right now. And he's going to do it. Yes, he is. Here goes Tom Davidson. Can he land it? Can he bring home the win after the jump? No, he hits the tyre barrier, but it helps the car out. It goes spinning on around. I think Davidson here might have it unless Jamie Nuttall comes on through. He does. He absolutely nails it, does Nuttall. He takes the lead of the race, albeit with a slowdown penalty. Davidson burns his slowdown. Nuttall's got too much speed. He's into the gravel. And Tom Davidson is going to make it onto one more lap. They are going to squeeze in a 10th lap here with the jumps. It's a black flag for Davidson. My good lord. So they've added an extra lap in here with the jumps as well. And therefore we've got one more test of this. It's absolute chaos right now. We thought it would be over, but the jumpers extended the race by another lap. And my goodness, well, it's bonus laps here. You can almost say that's their joker lap that they've served. And as they head up the rise now, it's going to be Davidson and Nuttall, both with black flags. Felix Smorgy with no yellow flag, no black flag. He's going to carry on here, and he's going to see if he can just bring this one home as the winner. As we say hello to Handsome Shoe there, who's looking good as always. And I hope you're doing well, my friend. And Martin Blankensteiner's all over the back of this as well, like a bad rash. But further down the order, because we've been talking about all the madness up the road, well, we look to Francesco Petalin still fighting with Nick Clemens here. We left them this way, and they come back this way with Andrew Pike. Meanwhile, seemingly not getting the memo, which is he's not under any pressure. Oh, goodness me, as he hits the tyre barrier there, going up the mountain straight, and in the end almost ends up on two wheels for a brief moment. That's going to bring Petalin and Clemens right into the mix with him, but perhaps Pike was getting a bit lonely there and decided to see if he could make friends of the tyre barriers, and now he's made two new friends on the circuit with him. Albeit Pike right now, if he wanted the friends, they're going to be very close to him all the way through. Petalin looks up the inside, can't quite find it initially, but Pike cuts himself a little bit deep, and Petalin does squeeze him for it. Lovely move from the Big Pig Racing Italian machine as he makes his way up the rise now. And Pike and Clemens together As they come through, Clemens hits the wall. Does he keep it? Point in a straight line. Yes, he does. He just about survives it. Andrew Pike there takes all the grass, hits the barrier. And right now, I think there's more barrier than car on the number 57. As Nick Clemens tries to go around the outside, he gets it wrong. And he realises he's in a rally car and he gets it very, very right and brings it back together. But meanwhile, at the front, Davidson and Nuttall, they're going to do the jump again. Here we go for the second time. Who will bring it home? Who will land it? Well, Jamie Nuttall does. He rolls on his roof. Oh my goodness, it's like the Blues Brothers all over again, my good lord. But Tom Davidson will get it stopped, but he's got to burn a penalty. Felix Smoggy gets it wrong under braking. Does anybody want to win? Jamie Nuttall wins on circuit, but it's going to be a black flag. Tom Davidson crosses the line. Takes second on the road ahead of Felix Smoggy and Martin Blankensteiner. Stephen Hutter, meanwhile, he's got to slow down, but he takes it nice and easy. He may win this. All he's got to do is burn the penalty. Can he burn it in time? He's going to try. He's struggling to burn the penalty. I don't know if he can burn it. Yes, he can. I think Stephen Hutter may have taken this ahead of Andrew Pike, who's been involved in an absolute chaotic last jump, ahead of Nick Clemens and also Francesco Petlin and Clive Bourne. They're all trying to pick themselves back up. Pike decides he wants to come home in the pit lane, and meanwhile Francesco Petlin, now he drifts his way to the finish line here. He does it in style. Meanwhile, Nick Clemens does as well. They both survive it. Clive Bond will come home in 9th on the road at least, but I suspect he's been promoted a few places. And then it's going to be Alan McCain who comes home in 10th place here, ahead of Craig Twardock, who will be your last lead lap finisher. My good lord. That ending was absolutely bonkers, ladies and gentlemen. And well, I can tell you one thing. There was so much there, and we need to unpick some of it as Craig Twardock finishes his race as well. There he is. But we need to take a look back, not just at all the madness that played out for Nuttall, Davidson, Smoggy and Blankensteiner, but also the chaos that went on behind. And without further ado, I think we can. And well, here we go, ladies and gentlemen, as we take a look back in time. So, in fact, this was Felix Smoggy celebrating what he believes is his win. So he's over the moon and takes a brief trimming of the grass. But we had this firstly for Tom Davidson. And, well, my good lord. Jamie Nuttall just rolling it through. Tom Davidson then trying to slow down to burn his penalty. And that was Smoggy getting it wrong. That was Blankensteiner getting it wrong. They were all getting it wrong. And in the end, Jamie Nuttall somehow bringing it home, at least on the lead of the road. And that was absolutely bonkers. We had this for Kieran Sharp just behind. And, well, Kieran Sharp in the end having it go wrong over the mountain initially. So it all went backwards for him before he ended his race. So he went into the dipper in the wrong direction. Andrew Pike, meanwhile, had this making the way down. So this was the battle for 5th place, which Stefan Hutter just in the end played it safe through. So Pike and Clemens decided to make the jump. Meanwhile, the other car they decided not to. So Pike made it, he landed it, and then Clemens oh goodness me, Clemens escorted him to the barrier. So they both end up into the wall, and in the end, Francesco Petlin, well, he got collected with it as well. So all three drivers ended up in a bit of disaster there, and that explains what happened to them. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we head back to your live circuit side pictures, and in good time as well, because we need to bring you those race results, subject to no steward inquiries here, but subject to a lot of time penalties, and here we go. So after an absolutely bonkers race number 1, well, the sequel, race number 2 here at the Mount Panorama Circuit for the Sim Racing Collective Mountain Rally special event on iRacing, definitely delivered. And indeed, if part 1 got 5 out of 5, this got 6 out of 5 that broke the rating scale. But with it all, what has happened after all that racing is that Francesco Petlin has been promoted to being your winner for Big Pig Racing. He'll be over the moon with that one. I don't think he's going to quite believe it. He only finished 7th on the road, but he has taken that win ahead of Clive Bourne, with Tom Davidson rounded off the podium there. So Davidson, he got a black flag after finishing 2nd, but has been promoted back up to 3rd place because the black flags that all the other drivers have had were much bigger by comparison. One of whom, Stefan Hutter, was not able to burn off his penalty, so he actually did take a penalty after the race. He took 4th, ahead of Felix Smoggy, who was 5th, and then Jamie Nuttall in the end takes 6th place, ahead of Nick Clemens. With the iRacing Esports driver there, 4 seconds there, Craig Twardock. Andrew Pike in the end somehow managed to get himself demoted to 9th place, but still ahead of Kieran Sharp. Don't know how that makes sense, but it somehow happened. That was your top 10. And then best of the rest at 11th place was Bart Raven, 3.5 minutes down the 3 minutes and 6 seconds down the road. And then it was a lap down to Martin Blankenstein. Despite finishing 4th on the road, he was demoted back a lap. because that was how big his penalty was. Alan McCain as well was demoted back a lap to 13th place. And then William Chandler was 2 laps back. 3 laps back was Jack Southfield, and then it was a non-finish for James Radford, as it was for Max Foster and Lenny Hansen. So that's the race results there for race number 2, ladies and gents. Everybody seemed to have an absolutely brilliant and fun time. I've had a great time here in the commentary booth, and I hope you guys and girls in the YouTube chat have had an absolutely brilliant time as well. We've seen a number of you saying absolute content today. And with that, it does mean it is now time for us to wrap up this wonderful special event, because we've got no interviews planned today. Indeed, I think everyone there will be absolutely choking themselves with laughter, and we probably won't be able to get a coherent word out of anyone. But what we can do coherently is say thank you very much for watching. And if you have enjoyed today's show, and well, indeed, here at the Sim Racing Collective, we're not just about the serious series, but also about the fun one-off and special events. Well, if you want to know more about all things the Sim Racing Collective at TSRC, we definitely recommend first that you check out our official website, and that is at www.tsrc.club. And as our website appears on screen, it is the #1 source for all information, all things the Sim Racing Collective. And as you can see there, right in the centre is the beating heart, which you can join, and that is our official Discord. On the left-hand side as well, you do have access to all of our social media channels, which do range, of course, from our SimGrid profile page all the way through to our Twitch page. And indeed, you can also start to stay with all the latest news and announcements through our website. But perhaps you're not fond of going to websites, perhaps you're more of a social media person, and you can, of course, follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/TSRC_official, and there you can stay up to date all the latest news and announcements, particularly when it comes to broadcasts on our official Twitter. We'd also like to take a moment and say a big thank you to our partners and affiliates, who we could not do this without, including, of course, Motorsport UK's esports division, SimGrid, Coach Dave Academy, and Abruzzi Simulation and Motorsport. And well, ladies and gentlemen, what's next, I hear you ask? Well, we don't quite have a full season of the Battle of the Beatles on the cards, but we do have coming up in 2 weeks' time is the return of an all-new season of racing, and it will all begin on Monday, the 10th of November. And what exactly is that all-new season of racing, I hear you ask? Well, it is going to be our 3rd season of the much-loved GT4 series, and it begins on Monday, the 10th of November 2025. It is back with a bang, and we have got an incredible season of racing ahead, because of course on the GT4 grid we have the new star that is right at the centre of the thumbnail here, and that is none other than the Ford Mustang GT4, recently added to the iRacing simulator service, amongst which it will compete against the McLaren 570, yes, also the Porsche 718 Cayman GT4. We've also got there the Mercedes AMG, the BMW M4 G82, and I believe that's all of our cars there. And in fact, we have the Aston Martin V8 Vantage as well out there, so 6 GT4 cars will be competing for glory, and we are going to have an absolutely stacked grid, and it will be over 6 rounds of incredible racing, which we will see our drivers compete for the ultimate prize. We have on the schedule there our season open at the Alton Park International Circuit on the 10th of November, and every week we'll be going to a new venue, with round number 2 heading to Italy for the Autodromo International del Mugello. Then in round number 3 we'll make our way to the United States for 1 or 2 visits for the season at the Virginia International Raceway. But we'll be then making our way back to Europe for Circuit Zolder to kick off the second half of the season on the 1st of December, before then making our way back to the States for the recently revamped and refurbished Sonoma Raceway Circuit on the simulator platform. And then concluding it all, we'll be back in Australia, much like today, for the Mount Panorama Circuit, where we'll see somebody not just become our champion, but also king of the mountain. So therefore, we've got plenty of that to look forward to, and all you need to do is look forward to it in only 2 weeks' time, when we bring that all-new season of racing to you here on the Sim Racing Collective YouTube channel. And I'm very pleased to say, ladies and gentlemen, that I'll be back behind the microphone, bringing all the racing action as it unfolds over those 6 superb rounds. But with that, that's all we've got time for today. This has been the Sim Racing Collective Mountain Rally special event. I've been your host and commentator, Paul Walsh, also known as TX141, or Brit of the Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and much like our drivers say, ladies and gentlemen, remember first and foremost to keep it on all 4 wheels and on track. Good night.